to all of us. As you know, Pascal and myself, our intentions is to add value to your business, to your life in any way that we can, and to answer any questions that we are able to, and also to share what we have learned in the business over the years, and to encourage you to keep on doing what we all are doing, because in our business, we are always doing the basics. This is what we do. And we encourage you not to grow tired of the basics, because it's the basics that build our business. So with that idea in mind, today I wanted to talk a little bit about something maybe that already we've talked about on many sessions, but just to remind ourselves some of the important points of why we use the Neolife range of products. So my topic will be some of the toxins that might be found in our homes and in our environment. Of course, I'm not able to exhaust all the sources, but I thought I would give some pointers. And as usual, what you learn here is just the beginning. You can go and inform yourself further if you find the topic is of interest and you want to deepen your knowledge. So just to create the awareness that, for example, when we look at our home care range, we might not think too much why it is important that we choose the Neolife home care range. And I'm not going to talk specifically about the home care range, but I just wanted to mention that sometimes if you are looking at the home care range, you might not really think about what an important difference it is making your home non-toxic, and even more importantly, in making sure that your home does not contribute to the toxicity of our environment. Okay, so what are some of the places where we can find toxins getting into our home life? I wanted to talk about things such as what we use for cleaning. So our Neolife range is especially to ensure that nothing you use for cleaning is toxic to you or to your customers who are using them. So if you take something like the normal bleach that we buy from the shops, without going into brands, we know that they are very poisonous. And if they are taken, let's say if a child accidentally takes them, then you have a serious emergency on your hands. We take something like drain cleaners. Drain cleaners we know are highly corrosive. And if we keep some to use in the home, we have to keep them very much out of the way in case someone accidentally comes into contact with it, because then it would do some serious harm to them. But if you look at, the third one I wanted to mention in that first group, air fresheners. We might not think about air fresheners as a source of toxicity, but actually many of the air fresheners have got ingredients in them that are not going to kill us on the first day or the second day, but as we habitually use them, they increase the toxins in our environment. Now, we compare that with, for example, if we use Super 10 to clean our drain, we use oxygen bleach when we need to bleach our clothes. We use Care Solution because, for instance, instead of using an air freshener in your bathroom, what you can do is put Care in a spray bottle and use it as a fine mist in the bathroom, because then it kills the bacteria that are causing the offensive smell and does not cause any harm to you as a toxic item. So by using those three products, Care, Super 10, and oxygen bleach, you are replacing some products which have been implicated in being quite toxic in your home. So that is the first point I wanted to make. The next place where I thought we can talk about a little bit is water. We know that in many of our sessions, we always talk about the importance of drinking plenty of water, because we say even the most important person on the planet is 65% water, which means we all of us need to be replenishing the water in our systems, because it is used in very, very many of our life processes. But when we think about the quality of the tap water, for example, this is very varied. In some places, it is very, very safe to drink. In some, it might not be so safe to drink. especially when we think about, of course, we know that in many places, water is chlorinated in order to kill the germs which can cause in very many parts of our continent, because we know that if we don't, in places where water is not chlorinated in Africa, you may find that the water itself becomes a source of bacterial infection and so on. But the chlorination in itself does not remove the impurities that might find its way in the water. So, for example, think about all the things that come from our agriculture, the herbicides, the pesticides, the residues from artificial fertilizers, and so on. Think that all these make their way in one way or another to into our water systems, and the chlorination does not remove them. If our agriculture is using a great amount of these items, some of the residues will definitely get into our water system, and the chlorination is not going to remove them. The chlorine is good because it kills the microbes that might be in the water, but it does not remove these other residues. And it's not, agriculture is not the only culprit. Think about the industries that we have that might be adding, maybe as a result of not being very careful, adding to the bad residues into our water system. This can be another source of things in our water that is bad for us. Then think about all the different medicines and drugs and the chemicals that are a part of our lives. These, as they go out of our life down the drain, they don't just disappear. Some of them will be removed by our waste processing system, but some of them may remain depending on how well the job is done. Because if you think about things like hormone replacement tablets, contraceptives, antibiotics, all these things leave some residues that go into the drain. And from the drain, hopefully, the toxicity is not too high. But we have to think that all these things will make their way one way or another into our water system. And for that reason, we need to be careful about the water that we drink. Yes, it is very important, and I cannot overemphasize the importance of making water our main beverage. It is the perfect beverage for us, and is the foundation of all other beverages, but it in itself is the best. But when its quality has been compromised as a result of some of these activities that I've mentioned and others which I have not mentioned, then the water itself might be a source of harm. Of course, I know that it's unfortunate that Neolife no longer has the water filtration system in our region, but I think that for all of us with this knowledge about the importance of water and the importance of its purity, we should make an effort to try and improve the quality of water that we drink. Then, leaving water aside, I will go to another source of impurities and toxins in our homes and our lives, and that is food additives. Okay, when you think about food additives, we normally don't think that they are bad for us. But especially, I think you'll remember that on very many occasions, I'm always talking about you need to eat food which is minimally processed, food that is as close to its natural state as possible. And the reason for that is the moment we start processing food, we start adding other things which are not actually food. So if you think about packaged food, first there is a concern for the lengthening the shelf life, because natural food by its nature will get spoiled, isn't it? We all know this, that if food stays 1, 2, 3, 4 days, it goes bad unless we do something to preserve it. Now, if the food is going to be manufactured in a factory and kept in a supermarket for weeks and weeks, you can see that the length of its shelf life needs to be lengthened. And this is why we emphasize the eating of minimally processed food, which you will know that now it is not good to eat because you can smell it or you can see the texture has changed. But for the processed foods, it can say, I mean, some of these foods can stay for years without changing. A certain brand of cornflakes, and they found that even the cockroaches don't eat this food because they don't recognize it as food. And so for that reason, before you buy a large amount of your diet as a processed food, you need to think about the things that have been put in it in order to make it last so long. And those things, if we think about the preservatives, we think about the colorants, we think about the flavorants, we think about emulsifiers, all this is supposed to make the food attractive to you and to prevent you from thinking about where the food came from. But I want to encourage you to be deliberate about thinking where your food came from and how long it has been. Maybe you can make a habit of looking at the date on it. If the food was manufactured in 2012 and we are eating it in 2020, you need to think about how it is possible for it to last all those years. Okay. So the food additives can be a source of toxins in our system. And this is especially important if you're already struggling with certain health matters. And of course, this is another reason why we encourage people to use our products, because they help our bodies to detoxify and fight against some of these toxins that can find their way into our bodies. And of course, maybe towards the beginning of 2021, God willing, we shall discuss the detox products. But for now, just to know that it is important for us to use products like Pro-Vitality, Beta-Guards, and all these, because they assist the body in removing the toxins that might find their way into our bodies. And we know that some of the hard-working organs in our bodies, like the kidneys, the liver, all these need to be given a boost by using our supplements, because then they can do the job of detoxifying our systems well. Another source of toxicity is junk food. So I talked about food additives before, but now I'm talking about junk food, food which normally would be inedible, but has been converted into something profitable and edible. So for example, if you think about some of the things that are packaged and made very colorful, not all of them would be actually good things to eat, but because of the way they have been processed and flavored, they become very palatable. So these junk foods are actually almost like a chemical process, because they have people who are working in a lab to change their texture, to change their colors, to adjust them in such a way that they are attractive to you. And of course, when you take them, you feel that they are very nice, but they actually have no nutritional value in them. And if we are using this food as a majority of our diet, then we are actually malnourished. And so for that reason, it is important to make sure that not more than 20% of your food comes from junk. Of course, sometimes you may feel the need to eat, let's say, a bag of chips or something of that sort, but it should be at a minimum, because as a result of all that has been done to it, then the nutritional value that you are getting is very, very low, and the harmful substance that you are introducing to your body is very, very high. So if you take something like a soft drink, this is an item that has been added to our diet, not because it has got any use whatsoever. So sorry to say that if you are busy drinking some of these drinks, all you are getting is a lot of sugar, which is putting you in danger of diabetes. You are getting a lot of chemicals, colorants, and fizziness that makes it very tasty and interesting to drink. But the whole point is that the reason why we drink is because we are thirsty and we want water to be added into our system. Now, if we are adding this drink into our system, yes, we are getting water, but that water is full of so many other things that it ends up being harder work for our systems than if we had drunk plain water. So just think about some of these junk items that we are very fond of. Some of us, of course, maybe we are preaching to people who are already not in this category, but I'm also taking into account that you have a sphere of influence and you can go and encourage people out there that instead of spending extra money on these types of foods, maybe they would find it cheaper to buy more natural food and benefit from it much more and stop taxing our systems, our bodily systems with all these chemicals and additives that just make hard work for our livers and our kidneys and our skins and so on. So junk food is another favorite that which comes at a very high cost to us. Then I also wanted to mention as a last point, plastic. We know that I remember I think last year when Pascal and myself came to Kenya and we found that plastic bags had been banned and we didn't know. So we went to the supermarket and did our shopping and then they told us, do you have bags? And we said, what bags? And there we are with a bunch of shopping and nowhere to put it. But luckily for us, they were kind enough to give us carton boxes. And I know it was quite inconvenient, but I think that you can see that it has had actually a good effect on our environment because people are more thoughtful about using plastic. But I would like us to go a step further in food storage in our home because a lot of the time, the culprits that we still have is water bottles and food storage. Plastic is very convenient for keeping leftovers, for example. But a lot of the plastic has got certain things that can leach into the food. That is, it comes out of the container and gets into the food that you are eating. And this has been associated with a number of health issues, which I think means that we should try to look for alternatives. Of course, plastic is a winner because it doesn't break easily and we can use it over and over. But once we realize that it has some harmful content in it, maybe we can look for things like glass, where possible. To use glass is a very good one. Unfortunately, of course, it's breakable. That is why it has been replaced by plastic. There is also enamel. That was, when I was a young person, a lot of the bowls and the containers were made of enamel, which is also quite good because it doesn't have that problem of leaching. And if we have to use plastic, then it's good to use the BPA-free plastic, which does not so much have this problem. And also, if we want to keep water for drinking, maybe it is better to use a metal bottle or glass bottle. Of course, metal is more expensive and glass is breakable. But when we think that this is a matter of our health, maybe we should try and make that effort. I am still struggling to get rid of plastic because it's very convenient, but little by little, I'm trying to move out of plastic and into glass. Luckily for me, our children are grown up, so we don't have so many breakages. But yeah, just to know that where you can make adjustments, do try and do so. Okay, so those are some of the things because I see my time is almost running out and I had a few questions that came through. As I said, you can research further if you want to know a bit more about the things that can make your home more toxic and deal with them. But as I said, our products play an important role, both as a way of replacing the harmful cleaning products and as a way of helping our bodies to counteract and eliminate the toxins that might find their way into our bodies. So some of the questions I had, one was on swollen feet. And with this one, I just wanted to say that it could be an indication of another health problem, the swelling of the feet. So my first recommendation is the person should visit the doctor if this problem persists. Of course, sometimes your feet may swell as a result of having a tough day standing and walking for long periods. See a doctor in order to establish that there are no underlying causes. And products that can help with this is multimineral alfalfa, omega-3 salmon oil, and coenzyme Q10 for those who have it in their markets. Then the second problem was from the time when we spoke about nutrients, and it was about eczema, which is a skin condition that can come due to stress. Because one of the ways our bodies react to stress is by having skin outbreaks. I, for example, when I'm highly stressed, I get eczema around my neck. I don't know if there's someone who has that experience, that when they have a lot of stress, then their neck starts itching. Some people break into other kinds of skin problems. So stress can be a source of, can be a cause of eczema. Allergies can also be a cause of eczema. Certain fabrics on certain people, especially the synthetic fabrics, can cause certain people to have this skin problem. So again, to try and isolate what can be the reason for the eczema. And on the Neolife side, we recommend vitamin A plus D, zinc, and aloe vera gel to apply on the affected place. If it is persistent, maybe it would be a good thing to also see a doctor, because you might need stronger creams just to help the skin recover before then you go on with the aloe vera gel. Then the third question was about low libido on the part of a gentleman. And some of the causes for a low sexual libido in men can be the use of drugs, for instance, drugs like cannabis. And also some of the drugs used for high blood pressure can reduce the libido, as well as stress and other things. So it's good for someone who is having this issue to examine their lifestyle and what needs to be changed that can be at the base of the problem. And then we recommend herbal masculine complex, zinc, and either Amiton or NutriShake. So these ones can help with this difficulty. Then the next question was about tonsillitis. And again, here, my first recommendation is, because tonsillitis can usually be as a result of a bacterial infection or a viral infection. So it's important to see a doctor so that you can get the right treatment to get rid of the infection. If it becomes recurrent, then it could be that there is something else going on. And maybe the doctor will help you to establish the reason for the recurrence. But also the products will be quite helpful. You can recommend vitamin C. And remember, I've mentioned before that because as a result of COVID, we have had shortages of vitamin C. Flavonoid complex, our flavonoid complex contains a certain amount of vitamin C. So where you are struggling to get vitamin C, we can also use flavonoid complex. It's quite good. And herbal respiratory complex will also be useful, as well as Neolife tea. Then the last question that I'm going to mention here, because the time is up, is sinusitis. Someone wanted to know about sinusitis. Again, sinusitis can be the result of an infection, either bacterial or virus. It can also be as a result of allergies, or that there has been a blockage in the sinuses, which are on the face and on the sides of the nose. And so a visit to the doctor would be good, because if it is a microbe that is causing the problem, then they will recommend for you the right treatment in antibiotics and other things of that sort. So sinusitis is good to see a doctor to establish whether there is a blockage, because sometimes there is a physical blockage, or there is a microbe that is causing an infection. If it is an allergy, then it is good to also try and identify the allergen that is causing it. And on our side, from the Neolife side, we will recommend herbal respiratory once again for sinusitis, as well as flavonoid complex and omega-3 salmon oil, which will help the that is I'm going to share with you this evening. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to spend this time with you. And I hope that the session has been of some use to you, and that you'll keep on going out and sharing what we know and learning from each other and making a difference within our circle of influence. A wise man said that hell is full of closed mouths. So we should not keep our mouths closed. Think about the people who should have said something and did not. So, of course, there might also be many people there who said what they should not have said. But for us, the message we have should be shared, and we should not keep it to ourselves. There are people out there who are waiting to hear the message that we have to share. So let's go out and do it. And I'll hand you over to Pascal now. And I'm looking forward to see you again next Thursday. Thank you very much, and all the best in your efforts for the remainder of the week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good evening, everybody. I think that was a very good session, talking about sharing the stories with people who may need our business. The session I'd like to share with you today deals with two things. One is the power of tools, and the second one is the power of your story. I think most of you attended if you give me a minute, I would like to share the screen. Okay, so go to the beginning. All right. I'd like to share with you two things that are very, very important in building our business. The other day, I was speaking to a friend of mine in Nairobi, and I've invited him to see the business, and he started saying that, it's very difficult to convince people to join the business. Why? Because most people don't know. So I don't think I can join the business to convince others. Many of you know Charlie Bolton. Charlie Bolton comes from Port Elizabeth in South Africa. He has built the largest business in Neolife all over the world. He's got the largest network in the world. And if you meet Charlie and listen to him talk, sometimes you'd have a challenge hearing what he is saying, because he's partially deaf on one ear, and also when he speaks, it's difficult to follow what he's saying, but he speaks clearly. Why am I talking about Charlie Bolton? I'm talking about Charlie Bolton because Charlie Bolton is a perfect example of using tools to build his business. If you're a guest, if you're a new person in the business, and you worry that you need to convince other people to join the business, your worry is well placed, because we do not try and convince people to join the business. In fact, if you're going to convince people to join the business, you'll have to convince them to do the business, which is not what we do. In fact, the core of our business is we're looking for people who are looking for our business. That means that the growth of your business depends on if you are able to identify the people who are already looking for it. And one of the ways that it can help you to build your business are called third-party tools. What are third-party tools? Third-party tools are things or tools that have been professionally prepared so that we can view our business, the people, our prospects who view the business, view a tool which is professionally prepared. Okay? For example, videos, CDs. Neolife has prepared a very fantastic video, which is 2 minutes and 57 seconds only. And that is one of the tools that you can use to prospect. How do you do it? You call a prospect and ask, by the way, I've started running a business. Are you open to earn extra money? And if they say yes, you say, okay, I'm sending you a 3-minute video. Have a look at it. Let's talk. Why is that important? It's important because the video has been professionally done, and the video is going to speak on your behalf, so that you don't have to convince anybody to join the business. What you need to do is to give them information to make a decision. All right? The other tool the other third-party tool that we have in our business is our company website. That is www.neolifeafrica.com, or your own back office. For example, the one I've shown there on the screen is our personal website that Betty and I refer our prospects and our customers to. When you join the business, please speak to the person in your distributor center to activate your back office, so that you can actually share your prospects, refer your prospects to your website, so that our prospects can go and see the products, the business, and information about our business. All right? And the reason that is done is so that the actual presentation of the business is not done by you, but by somebody who has professionally prepared either the website or the brochure or the magazine or the video. Another tool we use in our business are magazines and brochures. Then recorded conference calls. For example, every training or every business presentation we do by Zoom is recorded. So if you have a prospect and you want to show them the business, just say, look, I'm running a business. I'm going to send you a presentation that was done on Monday evening. Have a look at it. When you've looked at it, let's discuss the business. What are you doing? You are using a tool to speak on your behalf. And my experience is that the more tools you give out, the greater your chances of success to build the business. Why? Because the people who are truly looking for the business will not look at you as a person, will look at the video or the tool you have presented to them to have a look at. So that is very important, to use third-party tools. But in conjunction with third-party tools, the other things you need to learn. Number one, you need to know what these third-party tools look like. For example, when you're sending somebody the Neolife video, it's 2 minutes and 57 seconds. At least I expect that you have taken time to look at it yourself. Because once your prospect has watched the video, the next thing you're going to do is you ask the closing question. Is, did the video you watched make sense to you? Okay? That leads you to closing questions. So make sure you review the third-party tool before you send it to your prospect, or you give it to your prospect. For example, the magazine, I would expect that you have at least looked at the magazine or the brochures, because these are the tools that helps you to expand your business. The other thing that I found very effective is learn to ask the right questions. If you learn to ask the right questions, it will be easy for you to identify people who are actually looking for our business. For example, to ask a question like, are you open to earn extra money on your part-time basis? That's a very direct question that you don't need to convince anybody to answer the question. It's a question that the prospect will answer, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not interested. If the answer is, yes, I'm interested, then you tell them, okay, I'm sending you a 3-minute video. Please have a look at it. Do you think you're going to watch it today or tomorrow, or can you watch it immediately so that we can speak after 15, 20 minutes or this evening? Learn to ask the right questions. And the reason why you need to do that, the question will reveal to you if the prospect is actually looking for the business. One of the toughest things I've faced in this business is speaking to people who are actually not looking for the business. They will give you all sorts of excuses and reasons why they cannot do the business. What you're interested in is to find out, does this person actually want extra money, or are they willing to put in the effort to earn extra income. The other thing you need to do, you need to use the tools in conjunction with events. What do I mean by that? Let me say you sent a prospect a video. After they've watched the video, they might tell you, okay, I've seen the video, but it doesn't explain the business very clearly. Then you must mention, okay, by the way, I'm sending you a Zoom link. Somebody more experienced is going to explain the business on our behalf. This is a Zoom link. You send them the link and tell them what time in your region the presentation is going to be. I remember this week on Monday, I spoke to some prospects in South Africa, about 6 or 7 of them on Monday. And then I sent them the link to join the Zoom meeting. One of them at about 8 p.m. South African time sent me a message, Pascal, I've been trying to join this meeting now and says the host is not ready. So I tell him, no, the meeting has just ended. Then he says, I am so sorry. I didn't read the Zoom link properly because I see South African time, the meeting started at 7. In Kenya, the meeting started at 8. In Nigeria, the meeting started at 6 in the evening. So you need to make sure that your prospect knows the right time the presentation is being done. Other events are presentations, webinar. These are the things that you use in conjunction with third-party tools. And the reason why I would encourage all of you to use third-party tools very, very effectively and consistently is because it helps you to explain the business. Sorry, the tools help to explain the business on your behalf. Because you may be new and you don't know what words to use to explain the business. Just send them the tool. Give them the link. Ask them to join the Zoom meeting. Then somebody professionally explaining the business will do it on your behalf. All right? The next thing I'd like to discuss with you is your story. I think most of you attended the meeting on Monday where Josephine Marangu really shared her story and her heart on how the business has affected. Think about this. Josephine has built this business initially, not because she wanted to build a business, but because she was unwell. And the only thing she did is to share her story. And in 6 months, she has not only become a Sapphire director, but she also built another Sapphire director in her team, Rachel Maina. And I would like to say kudos or thanks to Grace Chege for the wonderful leadership you've shown your team. And the reason why this business grew very fast is because both Rachel Maina and Josephine have learned how to share their story. Trust me, one of the most powerful tools and weapons you can use to build your business is to learn to share your story. A few things I'd like to mention. Number one, everybody has a story. All of us have a story to tell, okay? Number two, practice telling your story. For example, if I was going to share my story about my experience in the business, I would share my story where I was before I joined Neolife, how I got involved, the challenges I faced in building the business, the benefits I have received since joining the business, and how the future looks like. Okay? For example, in 1996, Betty and I moved to South Africa because we were looking for a better life. But when we came to South Africa, I realized that my salary was not going to be enough to keep up with the needs of the family because the family is growing, but my salary is not increasing at the same rate. So when the business was presented to us, in fact, what saved us is that we were broke anyway, because sometimes people think that engineers make a lot of money. Yes, it's true, they make a good money, but they also pay a lot of tax, and inflation also eats into their income. So when we were presented with the business, the question I asked Betty is, how much does it take to start? It was 425 rand at that time. I said, let's try anyway. We don't know if it will work or not. And that's how we got started. We didn't have money. I wrote a check, and I asked my bank manager to honor the check. And that's how we started the business. Our first income was $3, but after 7 months of doing the business part-time, our income reached $1,000. That's really what grabbed me into the business. Did you have challenges? Yes, we faced a lot of challenges because I remember the first people I invited for a meeting, one of my colleagues who's an engineer told me, Pascal, you're a civil engineer and you're selling soap. That really got me discouraged. And when I went to our trainer and mentor, he laughed off and said, Pascal, in 6 or 7 months' time, this guy will not be able to believe what has happened. And I believed him and built the business. And after 3 years doing the business part-time, I fired my boss. So we've received a lot of benefits, income, good health for our children. For the most important thing that me and Betty profited from this business is being able to be full-time parents. Okay, because Betty and I have been running this business from home. All our children know what we do. How does the future of this business look like? I need sunglasses to see the future because it's very bright. The other thing I'd like to share with you is the difference between telling a story and showing the story. Telling means you share facts and information about the business. Or you need to start the business, you develop a network of users, and if you build a live network and people are using products, the company will pay you a percentage of what the business has generated. Showing your story means you actually take the prospects into your imaginations, the feelings, the challenges, and speak into their heart. Telling the story is sticking to their mind. Sharing or showing the story is speaking to their heart. If you learn to share the story by speaking to people's heart, it's the most powerful way to build your business. And I will give you another example. I remember when we started the business, we sponsored some people in a city called Polokwane. It used to be called Petersburg, which is about 263 kilometers from Pretoria. So I got into the car, drove and did the presentation. And I arrived there at about 12 o'clock. I did the presentation until around 2 and did some training. Then I got back into the car and on the way, because we were new in the business, I ran short of, I could see the petrol tank, the fuel in my car was going to get finished, and it got me concerned. Anyway, I eventually got home, and I thank God for that. What I've just done, I've told you the story. But let me share with you and tell you what it is to show the story, not to tell. That day, I remember very clearly, I woke up at about 6:30, got into the car and drove to Polokwane or Petersburg. We got there at around 11:30. And the presentation was at 12. After the presentation, we had training. And a few people joined our business. So we did training for about an hour and a half. Then I got into the car to drive back to Pretoria. When I left Petersburg, I could see the tank was reading a quarter. And at that time, I was driving a Toyota Corolla 1300 white in color. And with a quarter tank, I'd be able to drive about 160 kilometers. So I drove halfway through. When I got to Midway, the tank started flashing red, and I got concerned. So I kept driving. When the petrol, I could actually see the petrol was finished, I got very worried. I started sweating. I started praying. I asked myself, will I really get back home? If it gets dark while I'm on the road, what will I do? I need to call Betty. She'll start getting worried. So a lot of conflicting thoughts were going through my mind. And then I saw a petrol station nearby. I went and parked at the petrol station. I didn't have any money in my pocket at that time. I didn't know how I was going to get back home. I started thinking, and something strange or fantastic happens when you stop, think, and quiet down. So I calmed down and prayed. Then something told me, please check in your car. You know, when you do shopping, sometimes they give you they give you change in coins. So I'd accumulated some coins. Then I stopped the car, pushed the driver's seats in front, checked under the car, and I found some coins. So I removed all the coins I could find in the car, and I added them up. They added to about 20 or 25 rand. went to the petrol station, filled my tank, at least the red color in the tank disappeared, and I drove home. And when I got home, parked the car into the garage, and I didn't go into the house immediately. I was on the point of shedding tears with thanks because I was able to get back home. Those are the kind of the challenges that you go through in this business. And for me, I would not exchange that with any amount of money. So what I've just done, I have shown you the story. With feelings and color, with fears, that is what I have done for many years to share with people our experience in the business. This business is simple, but it's not easy. If you learn to share your story with passion, if you learn to share your story with truth, if you learn to share your story so that people you're speaking to can actually relate with your story, that's the most powerful recruiting tool you can develop in your business. And all of you have stories. All of you have stories. Learn to share your stories with passion. Learn to share there are many stories I can tell you of, because one of our children, Felix, has with sickle cell anemia, and many times we'd wake up in the night, he's so ill, we take him to hospital, his blood count is as low as 4, and that is a danger zone. So those stories you share with people, but God has seen us through all these challenges. So if you're a guest, if you're a distributor, take time, write down your story, refine it, practice telling it with your heart, practice telling with emotion, practice telling with truth. And if you do that, nothing will stop you from building a diamond business. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I can see some of you are really captured by that story. I can see Sabina in Sweden really concentrating on the presentation. I see Joyce and Howard King also paying great attention.